So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast on this wonderful Friday afternoon. Well, not really it's wonderful because it's so sunny out. I've put there's a massive light shining on my face, but if I was to turn off this light at the moment, you would see I got sunburnt today in Ireland. Probably a first. Paddy, how are you enjoying the decent weather here in Ireland?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I've spent most of the day up a ladder painting outside the house, so it's nice weather to do it. So might have a little bit of sunburn myself, but I think it was mostly the back of my head and my red neck that I caught.
Domestic god is Paddy. He's rates are good as well. Rates are good, and he travels. He'll travel over. If you put him up over in the Birmingham area, he'll paint your house as well.
Yeah,
but he only paints on Fridays and Sunday afternoons. Saturdays he's at the game, and Sunday morning he's recovering from a hangover. So don't expect him to do any work at either of those two times. And I don't think, to be honest with you, Paddy, I don't think there's too many people recovering from too many hangovers after that game against Man City, and that's where we're going to start. So this is kind of a mixed bag of podcasts. We're going to put 2 in 1. Just I suppose due to the close nature of both of these games. But Man City we played on Wednesday night and in Villa Park. Rather, I suppose, frantic game in a lot of ways, Paddy, and Villa ended up on the wrong side of a 2-1 scoreline.
Yeah, and let's face it, probably deserved beaten by the better side. Might have been completely different. For both of the sendings off, which we'll get to later on, but the second one ultimately decided the game as far as I can see, and there was no coming back from. But we had a great start. We scored within 20 seconds or 21 seconds through quick thinking from Tyrone Mings to play the ball forward. Eventually passed back by Ollie Watkins across the edge of the box for John McGinn to force home after 20 seconds. And I think we were all in dreamland at that stage. The many years of hurt of watching us playing Man City knew that we couldn't hold on to it. But look, what can we do?
What can we do is right. We've heard the old adage of we scored too early. You've heard that from teams that maybe score with 10 minutes left to go. And next thing, it just kind of pokes the bear, and then the bear comes in and scores 2 goals, and they still end up losing 2-1. Whereas we scored with there was 89 minutes left on the clock. It would have been a monumental effort. I know we did it against Arsenal at the start of the season. We're not in the middle of the season, should I say, scoring a goal within the first 2 minutes and holding out for 90 minutes. But with all the greatest respect to Mikel Arteta and the way he sets up his team, Pep Guardiola and the people at his disposal were a different kettle of fish, and they definitely were. And for a 20-minute period there, I thought we were okay in the opening. We were doing well, but once Phil Foden scored that goal, and I have to admit he's such a talented player, but once Phil Foden scored that first goal, they were kind of very cocksure themselves. They knew that they knew they'd get another one at some stage, And maybe if we could have held them out until closer to half time, we might have put a small bit more doubt in our mind. But bringing it back to 1-1 after 22 minutes into the game, I think really gave them the impetus to kick on there. Let's talk about the teams. The team first, Paddy. We obviously spoke about it beforehand in our team sheet tantrum. But we had Nakamba and Luis in the middle of midfield. We had Jacob Ramsey started, and Traore flanked either side of Watkins. Talk to me on that. Looking back in hindsight, what do you make of that setup? Was it
Well, you know what? For the team that were playing, I probably would have picked Luis and Nakamba in that position to guard in front of the back four. It didn't work. They couldn't get near the ball. When they did get near the ball, they gave it away. I thought Nakamba probably had his poorest game for us in a very long time. Luis struggled to get into the game, struggled to get on the ball. I don't know how many touches he had, but it feels like he had very little of the ball. I thought McGinn did okay. I think he's probably at home in that position, and we'll probably find a way of working him into it and keeping him there at this stage. Ramsey, very hit and miss, didn't do a whole pile for me, and neither did Traore. And I think that's more or less where the blame game stops until we get to the sending off a bit later on.
Yeah.
But I think two centre halves were excellent. Emi Martinez did okay apart from the second goal. Little bit disappointed with the two fullbacks. I thought every time City came down a flank, there was acres of space for whoever was on the opposite wing. And it was usually Phil Foden who found himself somewhere between 5 and 10 yards off the fullback with loads of room. And ultimately, it cost us with the first goal. He just had so much space in there. And there was just nobody picking him up. And I couldn't for the life of me figure out who was that supposed to be, who was picking up that extra man, because there shouldn't have been an extra man. And he was even propping up there when they were down to 10 men, which I couldn't get my head around. But look, you could go into it all day. The bottom line is we gave them too much respect. They exploited our weaknesses. They got at us. They kept their game plan. And I think this is important. In the last few weeks, all we've heard is, we need to shake it up. We need to change the system. We need to do this. We need to do that. We're just not good enough to shake up the system. We need more players in there. I think if we look back at this game, look at the Liverpool game, we just hadn't got what it takes to hang on against Liverpool. We made a silly mistake in this one, getting a player sent off when they were down to 10 men, and that's what's ultimately cost us in the end. It's so hard playing against a team that plays such. They just don't give the ball away. It's even without playing the likes of Aguero and De Bruyne, and it's incredible the stuff they can do with the football. I think Phil Foden is probably one of the best players in the league at the moment as well. So we'd a lot to deal with there. When you put it down, but what a point I'm getting at with changing the system. Pep Guardiola never changes the system. Never ever changes the system. His system is what it is, and I alluded to this in a previous podcast. We need to get used to this being our system. We just need to bring the players in that will fit into that system and push us on to the next level. And unfortunately, that's going to cost us money, and we will need to ship players out in order to play that kind of football on a weekly basis.
Can't agree more on that aspect. Realistically speaking, it was like they just had so much quality. You go down through their team. I'm struggling. Bar Zinchenko, you take Zinchenko out of it there. Every single one of their players cost big money. You go down through our team there, and yes, look, we've got some players in there. We've got people costing 10 million and so on, but we don't have anyone of the marquee nature. Like Bernardo Silva was just immense as well for City. Like Bernardo Silva, he is he's rotatable in that Man City squad. If we had Bernardo Silva, we'd play him till his legs fell off, So there is a difference, and it's not an excuse to say that this is the situation with Aston Villa at the moment. But making substitutions for the sake of making substitutions is like it's pantomime stuff, I think, at times, because that's all well and good making those substitutions, and people can say, look, it is criminal that Aston Villa haven't invested in their bench, but you can't you can't do it all in 1 year. And we certainly have made progress, and nobody can say that it hasn't been progress this year. And I know we keep on probably coming down on this side every single podcast, especially every single podcast we lose, but nobody can say we haven't made progress. But let's see where we are next year. This is the year whereby we start to see the pig get fat, if that makes sense. So at the moment, what we're looking at this is a saleable pig, but if we want to make the best out of our investment, we need to fatten it up slightly, to have a small agricultural term there. But so I'm really interested in this off season. Really interested in seeing what happens. There will have to be players that will go out, because you can have 25 in your squad. Interesting to read today that Kane, Hayden, Kessler, we'll get onto this, but Kane, Hayden, Kessler, and Carney Chukwuemeka, who was on the bench against Man City, and Jaden Philogene Bides were all training with first team squad today. They weren't in the squad for the
And Louis Barry,
23s.
I think.
Louis Barry as well. Yeah, why? Like I think we will get to a stage at the end of the season when things are a little less. How will I put it? You can't really do it with like 6 or 7 games left to go. And I know people would say, well, why can't you? Why can't you do it? Well, there's an integrity of this league as well. You're playing against teams who have something to play for. And I know we could have the attitude of fuck them. We look after our own patch. But
that's what everybody else would do. So
I don't know. I don't know. Like I don't know would they, because I think at this instance, like with the best win in the world, Louis Barry and Chuck Mowenko and Kane Hayden Kessler, we're going to go and buy players that potentially will play in their positions next year.
Yeah, but do you think for 1 minute if Man City had already won the league, we wouldn't have saw Sefrin starting in goal, Aki,
Aki's
Mendy,
yeah,
all these kind of players would have played on Wednesday night. That's the
Paddy,
difference.
They're not 19 years of age. That's the thing. That's what I know. No. We don't have those, so that's what you're getting at. Sorry, I cut you off too early. That's what you get.
Look, for me, I would throw a couple of this Sunday is the game to throw them into it, and we'll get onto that at a later stage.
Yeah,
but we're struggling on the wings. Put Philogene Bides in there. Put Louis Barry out there to do something different. I think at this stage, use our own players. I'm not going to lose any tears, although it appears today from what the money men have said in our accounts that we spent a lot of money on Ross Barkley. But it's time to invest in the future now. So I wouldn't be too upset if we didn't see him again this season and we start to see the likes of Chuck Mowenko and whatever coming into that squad. So I think it's an important few weeks for Dean Smith, because he's coming up to his most important transfer window of his Villa career. Because I think if we're still languishing where we are next season, there's no more excuses. You've had the transfer window, so the only excuse is going to be at this time next year is, did the owners back me? And yeah, I think they will in this transfer window. So he needs to buy experience. He needs to spend an awful lot of money, and we need to push on. We need to be in a situation that if Jack is going to miss 6, 8, 10 games, that there's 2 other players there that are going to frighten the shit out of the opposition. And if we can't do that at this stage next year, we're not going to push on from where we are. It'll be another mid-table finish. And don't get me wrong, I'm quite happy to be in this relaxing position of sitting in the mid-table and not being too pissed off after a game. Now, a couple of things did piss me off in the game. So, this is a welcome rest after the last 7 years, I suppose, of worrying about where we're going to finish. Will we get into playoffs? Will we get into playoff finals? How do we do in playoff finals? It's refreshing to have a period of time where you're not worried. And if Jack's injury had happened earlier in the season, I dread to think where we're going to be now. So, I think it's a wake-up call for everybody. I think the money needs to be spent, and it needs to be spent wisely. I think we need to be looking around for Premier League experience, or at least top half of European leagues, especially around the attacking area of the pitch. So, yeah, big window. There'll be a lot of work done in the summer. A lot of people coming and going. And I'm sure we'll do a podcast towards the end of the season about who we'd like to see going and whatever. So we'll talk about that again. But the match itself is very little to be upset over. I think Matty Cash, he knows himself. There's no need to call him out on it. He knows that it was a stupid decision to dive in like that, especially so far from goal. But I'm going to have my little usual referees rant, because he booked Matty Cash for pulling a fella back, and then he didn't book Rodri for the same thing a few minutes later. And let's look at what happened when John Stones was sent off. Pep Guardiola ran up and down the technical area, ran into our technical area, absolutely lost his shit. And in the reverse fixture, Dean Smith stood there, had a chat with the linesman. Linesman called over the referee, who was talking about his juggling balls, basically calling them clowns, and that was enough for a red card. when they didn't even have the balls to show the yellow card to Pep Guardiola. So there is a 2-tier league there. It's still there. And you think after everything that happened this week that this would start to even out, but it's not, and it's not good enough. And it needs, we need, I would actually go as far as saying that there's only a very small few of good, solid referees, fair referees in this league. And that whole mindset needs to be changed because it's not good enough.
The one good thing that Florentino Perez did wax lyrically about, I think, with regards to the Super League was, and he was throwing out all this stuff to try and get people on board after the backlash. The thing that he said, the referees will be mic'd up and you'll be able to hear VAR talking to the refs, and everyone was going, brilliant, that's fantastic, but you're still fucking stealing football, buddy. You know, you're still stealing, and you're on about saying, we will pay for the best refs in Europe to ref in our leagues. And then I was going, I couldn't tell you who the best ref in Europe is. I don't know. Is there a best ref in Europe? You know, there probably is. I'm sure I'm being very harsh on some referees, because there are one or two in the Premier League that aren't too bad. They really are, like, that are decent, you know. But it's the over scrutiny as well of referees as well, and we will be doing. If there's any referees out there that want to come on and chat to us as well, I'd love to understand some things that go through. If there's anyone who's refereed at a decent level whereby you would have actually been marked on a scorecard by a referee's adjudicator, I'd love to know that, because I sometimes feel that referees are over scrutinized, leads to them making stupid decisions because they're trying to think of the rule book and split second decisions as opposed to making a rational decision.
But all we'll say is, Neil, you know, I've no problem with a referee making a stupid decision as long as he makes the stupid decision both ways.
Yeah.
We're all human, but we're allowed to talk about referees because they are paid major amount of money in this day and age. Some of them believe the hype of having that FIFA and UEFA badge on their shorts. They don't perform like they should be in a Premier League. You know, some of the newer referees, I've alluded to him before. Simon Hooper, I think, is the best referee in the league. He treats everybody exactly the same. You can see him explaining himself to everybody. And that's how a game should be refereed. And you know what? Maybe miking them up might sort them out. But I can't see a day where they'll mic them up because I just feel there's a 2-tier Premier League there. And if they mic them up and do this, you know, none of those big teams wanted VAR because they get all the decisions anyway. So, and they still get them to a certain extent. So they don't want to be mic'd up. And that's all I'm going to say about referees, because we have a football club to talk about.
We didn't, I suppose, I think it's fair to say that we didn't lose the game because of the ref or because of Matty Cash's decision to lunge in, but it was a reason that we didn't get a draw or a...
Oh, yeah. But
so
don't get me wrong, the second challenge was ridiculous. But there was also an incident in injury time where Gundogan dived and he would have had to send him off. Yeah. And for some inexplicable reason, he asked for the throw-in to be taken again.
That was strange. That was really strange.
Why would you ask? The only reason I can come up with is he would have had to send Gundogan off and he'd have missed the cup final at the weekend. It just made absolute no sense. The Sky Sports don't show enough replays. BT don't show enough replays. It's like they overprotect these kind of things as well. Anything questionable at one end is over scrutinized. When it's at the other end, it's not. But anyway,
let's look at the two City goals. Phil Foden's goal. He's a very, very good player. But you mentioned that he was popping up in places out on the left. And you know what happened was, and this is coming back, I asked you about I think it was sometime last Wednesday. We've got on an awful tangent since I asked, what did you think of Luis in the Gamba? But that's our way, and we don't apologize for it. That's what you tune in for. So Foden goes picks up the ball, plays it inside, and then kind of, I won't even say follows his run, but he just meanders into that area of the D in front. I think there was awful confusion all night between Luis and Nakamba about who was going to pick up there. I don't think either of the two of them had a particularly poor game. For my money, that's where Nakamba needs to be, because he's not a ball-playing midfielder. I think he got drawn out of position very, very easily. I think that Jacob Ramsey didn't really know how to play where he was playing. He got drawn out of position as well. Also, the switching of flanks between Ramsey and Bertrand Traore for me was really strange, because they did swap a couple of times, and like Bertrand Traore isn't going to be the best at tracking back in the league at all. He's been pretty poor for a while now, Bertrand Traore as well. If we had the horses on the bench to be able to give him a break, maybe this is where we like, and we can't even say bring on Philogene Bides, because if we bring him on, we've no one on the other side, unless they're going to persevere with playing Jacob Ramsey there. But I think that was a bit strange. I'm not sure that came in from the line. I think that was something that was decided on the field, because if it was something that came in from the line, it was it's just there was no rhyme to it. The way that they switched flanks, It was like as if they were given the freedom to do it to try and stop the two full backs from bombing up, so that they'd have to kind of think about it and maybe pass each other off from midfield. But what I'm getting at here is that Foden ghosts in there. Nakamba was drawn out too far, possibly because the two boys were after switching at that stage. Nakamba was very far to the left. Foden gets in there, a ball comes across, Foden just does what he does. He's ridiculously good finisher of the ball for a young man. And then the second goal as well, Paddy, the second goal was much the same. Picking the ball up on the edge of the area, Rodrigo plays it outside, and then just kind of meanders. He's running, no one follows him. There was no midfielder there to check him, to stop him, make him run around. He just ran straight. People blame Tyrone Mings. I don't know. I don't really blame Tyrone Mings for that. I would more blame Martinez for coming out for it.
I was disappointed with Martinez, to be honest. He didn't come with any conviction at all. And possibly should have stayed at home and made an effort at the save instead of it. But maybe he saw the danger before it happened and tried to come and make up for that. But
and everyone heard his call, so it's a case of he definitely called. If he doesn't call, Mings does something and flicks backwards or makes a better movement to get into that position. So there was a lot of how am I going to say it? There was a lot of people that needed to step up in situations there that didn't. And then Martinez was forced to make a decision to be a leader, but his decision was maybe about half a second too late, So look, that's the difference, That's the difference between Diaz and Stones.
Going back to the fact that Foden had the freedom of Birmingham there on on his left hand side.
Yeah,
you've got to ask whose job was it to help Matty Cash, because Matty Cash had a reasonable game, I know we get on to the sending off, but he marshalled him well enough into the fact that he wasn't running at him all day. I got the impression that Foden didn't believe that running at him was an option. He was cutting inside and giving the ball back and holding onto the ball and whatever, but he didn't do his usual running at some defenders, which he feels he can get the better of. But there was no protection there down that flank. Neither Nakamba or Luis came across to help, and whatever especially in the first half, whatever side either winger was, they weren't tracking back at all.
Mystery stuff. Just goes to show, guys, as well, think of it this way, for a club like Aston Villa coming from where they've come, we've Trezeguet is injured, we have Morgan Sanson is injured, we've had completely, you got to call it, Ross Barkley is he can't be right. Ross Barkley can't be 100%, because the difference between him being injured and before he was injured and now is just night and day. We've Jack Grealish who's injured. I know we've got Wesley coming back, but when you've only got 25 players on your squad and four of your attackers that you want to use in rotation are injured, and then you've got the guys who are stepping up are Keenan Davis, El Ghazi, Jacob Ramsey. They're all fine. They're fine, but they're squad players for a reason. And you put those do any of those players get in any other team in the Premier League? So we got to use a bit of context there. These players are good players for Aston Villa, and I'm not denigrating them whatsoever. They're good players for Aston Villa. But when you say that we go out against Man City and we lose 2-1, that's the context that we got to look at here. Man City, Dean Smith said it today, that Man City played some of the best football against any team that Dean Smith has ever managed. And I know there was a couple of vocal naysayers on some social media platforms that said, well, you would say that because you got schooled by Pep Guardiola. Well, you know what? Fair play. Pep Guardiola is probably the best manager in the world at the moment. He's got a squad that's worth the bones of 500 or 600 million. And, there's very few teams that are going to go out against Man City. And Man City were in great form, So look, fuck it. There's a lot of context in this game. It's a pisser, really, that we lost 2-1. We were in with a chance of getting a draw in this game, but they'll send it off. You've spoken about the sending off. I don't really have anything else to say about it, but it's look, fuck it. They were the better team. That was a game that I'm not pounding the table at going, and I wasn't angry after it. I was kind of more angry at kind of the lack of context that things have been taken in at the moment, and anger for the sake of anger. For me, I just tired of it. I can't do it anymore. So fair play, Man City. We pull out our big boy pants. We go and we play against a team in West Bromwich this weekend that are fighting to stay in the league. Actually, I think, are they relegated at the moment? It was last night a relegation game for them. No. Yeah, they're in with some sort of a shout anyway. But let's move on to West Brom, because we could talk about Man City all day long, and what we keep coming back to is that Aston Villa are in a better position than they were last year. And sometimes I feel like that's all we do on the podcast to say that. So let's move on. And let's talk about the Baggies game. Sunday game. What time is kickoff for this actually?
8 o'clock or whatever the late kickoff is.
So we do our best
15,
work. 7
o'clock.
7 o'clock. So as I've said before, we do our best work on Sunday at 7 o'clock. That's when we do our best work. But we're going to have to do our best work without Matty Cash.
Yes.
Talk to me, Paddy. Who comes in there? That's the elephant in the room. Who comes in there for you?
For me, it's got to be Kane Hayden Kessler. For a number of reasons. And the main reason is, if we make that change and can't beat West Brom with that one change, there's something wrong. With what we have, we should be beating West Brom. Now is the time to see, is this guy any good? We've got Matty Cash on suspension. We've got Elmo there as backup. Elmo, it will be obviously observing Ramadan. So obviously can't eat in the lead up to the game. The game is very late in the day as well, and that is his right. That's perfectly fine. I'm not having a go at that. The main reason for me is that he deserves a game. I think he's been awesome all season, and he would fit in there just nicely for me.
Can I ask a question? And look, obviously this isn't any kind of political motivation or anything there, but because it's just not. Elmo is 34 years of age. 34. He's going to be used to be playing during Ramadan before. Is this as big a deal as it's been made out to be? Because he's played for 20 odd years. As a professional. Well, maybe he's played for 15 odd years as a professional. While observing Ramadan, I don't know. I think Kane Hayden Kessler should play there as well. I think we got to see what we got in him. But I've always wondered about this, because I remember that Karim El Ahmadi, that played for Villa as well back in the Paul Lambert era. That he mentioned as well before that he played during Ramadan. I'd be interested, if there's anybody out there that's listening, I'd be interested to get your thoughts on it, because
no, I don't claim to be. I don't claim to be an expert on the subject. I know El Ghazi did break the fast. I'm going to say it was the playoff semi-final or final, and I don't know what forgiveness you have to ask for, or whatever way it works. But I remember being in Tunisia and going to see two of the roughest sets of supporters I've ever been at in my life, going to a game.
Is it Tunis and I won't put you on the spot.
Yeah, I can't remember. I was there on holidays, and what amazed me was they were running a minibus from the hotel, and they could only take 10 because they only got 10 tickets for it. And I was going, how hard is it to get tickets for this game? But anyway, turns out the game was on at 11 o'clock at night because of Ramadan. So it meant the sunset, the guys were able to eat, get their energy levels back up, go out and warm up, and then 11 o'clock. And it was amazing to look around, see all the kids at the game at 11 o'clock at night. And, it was bizarre, but totally understandable when it's explained to you in that way, that the midweek games kick off at 11 o'clock at night. The weekend games are usually early in the day, so they've had they can get up and eat before the sun comes up, maybe, or whatever. Sure someone may contradict, but that's my recollection of it.
It stands to reason, you know. It stands to reason. I just wondered, maybe was there some sort of I was just kind of spitballing. Maybe there was some sort of glucose drink or something like that they were allowed to take maybe during the day that could keep them hydrated, energetic, and stuff. But I'd love to know more. If there's anybody that knows more about it there or has any insight in it, and I'm sure there will be. Absolutely, hit me up on Twitter. Give me a shout in DMs, because I'm fascinated by that, and by the fact that you know, that it doesn't seem to. There seems to be more made of it in the newspapers than there actually is by the players themselves. So I'd just be really, really interested in that. But anyway, getting back to the point, I still think I'd play Kane, Hayden, Kessler, just for the simple fact that we need to see what we got there. And this is it. And I know I go back to saying that these guys are coming up, and we most likely will buy people in their places. And maybe Kane, Hayden, Kessler is one of the people that we don't buy some of these places, because Gilbert comes back next season. We've got a nice stable of 3 there, and we see what way that one goes. Any other changes you would make to the team for the coming Sunday?
Bearing in mind that I watched them last night, and I watched Leicester destroy them when they were a flat back 4 in the first half. They took off Callum Robinson at half time, and I'm not sure. Ajoy, is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah.
Came on.
Yeah.
And they played 3 at the back, 2 wingers or 2 wing backs, and they looked a whole lot more solid. And they were a whole lot more solid because they didn't concede in the second half. But it's if they start out with that back 4, I would like to see Keenan Davis starting with Ollie Watkins on one wing and Bertie on the other. That's what I'd pick. Is it what Dean Smith would pick? I don't know. I think I've lost a bit of faith in El Ghazi getting back the form he had in December. I think it's time to freshen it up and do a bit more.
Paddy, truth be told, we did we ever fully gain faith in El Ghazi? You know, and that's not, once again, we're not slagging him. We're just being consistent in our opinion. Feel that El Ghazi doesn't have the heart for the fight, and I think we're probably seeing something like this at this panel at this point in time. But
he does like a goal against the Baggies, though.
He does like a goal. Look, I'll support every goal he scores. I'll support every goal anyone scores for the club. You know, I just think that maybe when Jacob Ramsey is starting in games ahead of El Ghazi, we probably could see El Ghazi this weekend. But when Jacob Ramsey is starting there, maybe that's the transition that Dean Smith is looking to make for El Ghazi, maybe not to be part of, because we will be strengthening there, and we can't keep everybody that we have, unfortunately. Paddy, there was a bit out in the news today, and Smith mentioned Wesley in his press conference.
That's just what I was about to get to, because that's why I picked the team the way I said. If Wesley's going to be on the bench, why not throw Keenan on there for 60 or 70 minutes? Give him a good run at this, because you know the guy deserves it. I feel he deserves it. Ollie Watkins playing on the wing, helping him out. You know what you're going to get with Ollie Watkins. He'll work his nuts off for the whole game. If that doesn't work, there's the option of bringing on another wing player and taking off Keenan and pushing Ollie back in. But if it does work and Keenan runs out of puff, there's Wesley there to come on for 20 minutes. And if he's going to be in the squad, surely he's able to handle 20 minutes. So that was my reasoning behind that team selection.
We're missing. This is a kind of a game where I'd like to play 4-4-2, and I know we're never going to do it. And this is me doubling back, and you should rightfully give out to me now, because you went on your soliloquy at the start that said we've got the system where we're going to play it, and I absolutely know that is in my heart and soul. I agree with you on that. Yeah. But I can't help but look at that midfield that was out there at the weekend and go, Conor Horan might have been somebody nice to have in that instance there. Look, we're not saying that he's the next Zidane or that he's Zidane or anything like that. I think it's just where we are at the moment when we're looking for a bit of stability. He may not be the best defensively, but he's not the worst defensively, you know. And I think that even if we were to go to a flat 4, even when we went down to 10 men against City last week or on Wednesday, you know, bringing on someone like Oren in there, have his left foot, crosses, deliveries and stuff like that, because we've no one that can deliver a ball at the moment. You know, and to be honest with you, Jack isn't even the best at it, you know, from corners either. So Look, anyway, that's just me having a little lament for the band and Beckham. But I think that's just really where we are at the moment. Like, we're probably looking at a midfield three of McGinn, Louise, and Ramsey again this weekend, which is fine, no problem with it. I don't think Nakamba is going to be in there this weekend. Then we're going to have El Ghazi, Watkins, going to have Traore, Watkins, and another, I think, this weekend. I'd love to see it freshened up. I'd even nearly like to see Traore maybe given some time off this weekend, if possible. As I say, he just hasn't been able to play himself out of the funk he's in. And when we're talking about change of pace players, his unpredictability could be something brilliant from the bench as well. But once again, don't think it's going to happen. Our back four, the only change would be, I think he goes with El Mohammedi, but I would play Kane, Hayden, Kessler.
I think he does too, yeah, and that's the $6 million question. What do you think he'll do, or what would you like to do? So for me, it'll probably be Elmo, but I would prefer to see Kane, Hayden, Kessler in there because I think he's due a start.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting tie at the weekend. You know, they're playing themselves into a nice bit of form. There's a lot of people coming out and going, and I suppose maybe we're in that situation. Well, no, I'm not going to do it because it's the Baggies, but a lot of people coming out saying, you know, maybe we were wrong about Big Sam. Maybe Big Sam is the dog for the fight. You know, they're not a million miles off saving themselves from relegation. They probably won't, but, you know, he's made a good case for himself to be able to try and bring him back up from the championship next year.
They just haven't got enough for me.
Yeah.
Like, you're looking at Kyle Bartley. Jesus, he was awful last night. I've never rated him as a player. He just never pushed on. O'Shea didn't do very well last night either. He was pulled asunder. Townsend and Furlong, who eventually were the wing backs, looked a whole lot better when they switched to that. It's a 5 or 3, whatever way you want to look at it. Maitland-Niles, not sure he has it. And then, is it Diagne you pronounce it?
Him, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's probably their great white hope. If they can hang on to him, I reckon he'll score plenty of goals in the championship.
Pereira as well. Pereira will light it up. He's a fine.
If they hold on to him.
Yeah, if they hold on to him. Yeah, he could be kind of a guy that could decide that, you know, he's played with Sporting Lisbon before. Maybe he goes, look, I've done my time now in the Premier League with West Brom. Let's give me a go with, I don't know, I'm going to pick a team off the top of my head, Atalanta or someone like that in the Italian league.
Yeah. He scored 9 goals this season. That's a good return.
Absolutely.
You know, for a team that's near, I won't say within touching distance, they're 9 points off safety with 7 games to go. It's not going to be easy. But I fully expect, regardless of what we do at right back, we have to turn them over at the weekend and turn them over well. Because I think this gives us a really good indication of where we're at without Jack. Because we're going to look at this and go, at the end of the game, this would have been a relegation dogfight last year. So let's see where we're at compared to where we are last year. Do we dominate the game? Do we beat them well? Or have they more stomach for the fight than we have? I think it'll tell us a lot about our players.
I think so too. Last time we played West Brom, I think we had a similar type of conversation, Paddy. It was around Christmas time, if I remember rightly, and we were kind of going, "Oh, we need a bit of a performance here." You know, we were without Ross Barkley. I think at that stage, we would have been without Ross Barkley. El Ghazi was in the midst of his scoring form, and we were thinking that, you know, we needed this. We needed a big game against West Brom.
Yeah.
Granted, they had a player sent off, but we ended up beating them 3-0, and it was a very comfortable 3-0. I'd love more of the same. I don't think we get more of the same of a 3-0, but I think that we should be good enough to be able to hold these guys out.
Not totally comfortable either, if I remember correctly. We scored
84 to 88 minutes. Yeah.
So you know, they're a tough side. They are tough. It's just I think if we get at them like Leicester did last night, we'll tear them asunder.
Hopefully. What's your prediction for the game?
I'm gonna go with a 3-0 again, and Emi Martinez to draw equal on that record.
That'd be great. I thought you were going to say Emi Martinez score a hat-trick. Um, you're mad for backing players score hat tricks. I'm going to go with 2-1 Aston Villa, because one of us needs to have that irrational, that irrational kind of downtroddenness, because one of us always has it. We'll go 2-1, but I'm going to go with something off the wall and say Wesley gets off the bench and gets a goal. Why not? Fuck it.
I hope the game is done and dusted by the time Wesley gets off the bench.
Yeah, well, why not? Why not? We'll be 2-0. We'll be 1-0 up. Wesley gets a goal, and then they get a goal in stoppage time. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, 2-1 Aston Villa.
Fair enough.
I forgot to mention a couple of things, guys, throughout the course of the podcast. As always, I meant to say that thank you very much to the Sports Social Podcast Network. As you know, we are part of them. You can find any of our stuff there. You'll find it on all podcast networks and on YouTube as well. If you aren't subscribing to us on YouTube, we would absolutely be honored if you would consider to click the subscribe button and click the little bell button. We will be doing a pre-match team sheet tantrum as well, where we will be reacting in real time to the team sheet, and this one could be one where there's a couple of changes and a couple of things to speak about. So please, we would love if you tuned in for that. And thank you to all the people who've supported us in that up to now. I think that's really it, guys. You know, the league is coming to a close. This is the twilight of the league, as we say, for this year. But we do still have, as I mentioned, a derby match against West Brom, and I'm looking forward to it still. I think that this is one where we can actually play ourselves into a small bit of form before another run of games against teams that that are above us in the league and have things to play for with regards to European competition qualification. But we'll take this step first. Follow Paddy on @VillaPaddy. You can follow me on @LoveMcGrathPod. Please, as I say, like, subscribe, hit the bell on YouTube, whatever else. It costs nothing to do it, and it really, really helps us out. But until Sunday at 6 p.m. So we'll go Sunday at 6, and we will have the team sheet tantrum. But until then, guys, all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.